Hey, okay, um, I finished a story earlier and I want to talk about it. I'm also going to do a thing where I call people out because I'm just overwhelmed by this. All right. Well, not so much overwhelmed, just like kind of a what the hell kind of a deal. So I got this, it's Futility or Wreck of the Titan. Now, I looked it up, and when this was released in 1898, it was originally titled Futility. Now, after the sinking of Titanic, the title was changed to The Wreck of the Titan. Okay, this is the story that everybody references. You see plenty of historians, you see documentaries, the whole nine yards. People come back to this. And they say, oh my gosh, it is so spooky that Morgan Robertson predicted the Titanic, the sinking of the Titanic. What? Guys, I read this. Okay, first of all, it's just a short story. Okay. I first want to talk about Morgan Robertson. All right, because everybody wants to talk about the story. They don't even do that, to be honest. They really don't. So that tells me that people are not reading this story. All right. I'm calling you out right now. All these Titanic enthusiasts, Titanic historians, all these, you know, ever since I put out that video about the bullshit photographs of Titanic, the photoshopped pictures, I keep getting these Titanic videos. And I don't think those people are reading this thing. Okay, just want to point that out. So anyway, let's talk about Morgan Robertson. So Morgan Robertson, when it comes to the fact that he wrote a story about an ocean liner, okay, he decided to write a story about an ocean liner disaster. Okay, guys, he was a cabin boy, okay, and was in the merchant service from 1876 to 1899. On the back of my book, it says, is born in 1861, was an American author of short stories and novels, and self-proclaimed inventor of the periscope. Okay. Went to sea as a cabin boy and was in the merchant service from, okay, so basically they took from that. Uh, he rose to first mate. Yeah, he was for for years he was in in the Navy. He worked on ships. So it makes sense that he would write, and this is not the only ship story that he wrote. Okay, there's tons of he even wrote um collections. Okay, this one, let me tell you something. Okay, because this is a short story. All right. This right here, that is Wreck of the Titan. The rest of it are other short stories. Okay, this is a collection that he put out in 1914. All right. I even have it right here. Okay. So Futility was revised in 1912 and later published as The Wreck of the Titan or a compound title. Yeah, they actually changed the story. After this, oh my gosh, they changed this story after the wreck, after the sinking. Let's see, where was that? Um, okay, let me go down a little bit more. That's where it is. Okay. McClure's Magazine and Metropolitan Magazine collaborated in 1914 to publish a four-volume set of short fiction. All the stories were previously published, perhaps all, but The Wreck of the Titan first published in magazine. So this is that McClure's and Metropolitan 1914 collection. Okay. That's what this is. Wreck of the Titan is a short story. It's not a big novel like no, it's not. It, it's a short story, and they even revised it. They changed it after Titanic sunk in 1912 because people were too sensitive back then, even. Oh my gosh. Oh man. Okay. So it makes sense that he would know all of this stuff. Okay, so some of the similarities, they're they're not exact when it comes to the tonnage and all of that stuff. Okay, like it talks about the watertight compartments. It says that there's 19. Titanic had 16. And stuff like that. It's not like he was exact, but this he was he worked on ships. He knew that stuff. Morgan Robertson knew all that stuff. In fact, when Titanic went down in 1912, people actually went back to this story and attacked Morgan and said that when he wrote the story, he was like some weird fortune teller and had some kind of weird premonition, and that's why he wrote this, or some kind of. And his answer to that was, if I could see the future, I would have told White Star Line not to build this doomed ship. No shit. He wasn't having it either. Gosh. So yes, here he is. He wants to talk about this great ocean liner. It was pure fiction, people. It was written in 1898. He was talking the idea of a hotel on water, right? It wasn't supposed to happen. But his calculations being so close is because he worked on ships. Why aren't people fitting this together? All these people who are like Titanic experts fit this one together. Shit. My gosh. Okay, so when it comes to the actual story, because I had to get that out of the way. I see so many people where they talk about this story and they're like, "Oh my gosh, it totally predicted. It predicted nothing." Okay, I read this story and okay, so the calculations are close because the author worked on ships. He was a cabin boy and then he rose to first mate. Damn it. And yeah, it's a big ocean liner that has few lifeboats, but if I remember correctly, um, the Titanic had the right amount of lifeboats that the law required. So that's debunked. Just, just stop. Oh, man. In fact, I'll take it a step further. There was a gentleman, I can't remember the name, I'll put his name in the description box, but there was a gentleman who actually fought to have more lifeboats on the Titanic, and he was vetoed out. I mean, they were saying, well, we can't have lifeboats overpowering the luxury of it. So there were people who actually wanted to put, who, the shipbuilders, who actually wanted to put more lifeboats for the sake of the people that were on, and they were silenced. Yeah. So people in 19, when Titanic was being built, there were people who were looking at safety, and they were silenced because luxury first, you know. Oh my gosh. Anyway, so and of course the story takes place in April. Again, he wanted to write a tragedy. He he works on ships. When it comes to ships, what is the worst time to it would be when there are icebergs. I think see that makes more sense. Knowing that Morgan is worked on ships, this isn't a conspiracy theory at all. It just isn't. Oh my gosh, he predicted nothing. Oh my gosh. I mean, I'm sure that he was on a ton of ships, and then the idea that a ship going through an ice field was like this thriller at the time. Eh, So, yeah, I'm not sure where you're thinking that okay. Because I have, okay, before I get into the actual plot of this short story, I have seen so many documentaries reference this. I have seen so many people where they're like, oh my gosh, because of these calculations and these calculations, they are so similar to the actual Titanic and this and that and blah, 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 blah. And because it's set in April and this and that and da, 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 da. But did you actually read it? Did you actually look up Morgan Robertson and who he is? No. You have no clue. You keep parroting and repeating over and over and over and over again the same damn thing. Well, I read it. I read this story. All right. So, you, all right. So you're the first chapter goes into explaining all the stuff about the Titan, this SS Titan, all the calculations and all that, how big it is, how grand it is, all that, and who cares. And then you are introduced to John Rowland. Okay, John Rowland is an alcoholic. He basically is a down on his luck. Used to be in the Navy, now he's just a regular deckhand on this ocean liner. As it turns out, a former lover of his is also on the ship. I couldn't stand her. I, c- I she was the type of person that it was like his because he wasn't doing anything to her. It wasn't like he was stalking her or anything like that. He knew that she was there, but he was just sticking to his job. He was doing his job, and that was it. But she was just having an absolute hissy little temper tantrum and freaking out to high heaven because of his absolute existence. Like, chill, chill out. But this is the funny part is that we all know people that are like that. It's like as soon as they see somebody and they just have an absolute meltdown and a half because that's what Twitter is. They can't, they can't stand it. So anyway, as it turns out, while this ship is, well, the SS Titan is heading to America, it actually collides with a ship in heavy fog. And um, at full speed. Now, Roland witnessed the collision and he's saying that he's going to tell everybody what happened. It was like intentional and all of this stuff. The captain says that he tries to bribe Roland to keep him quiet. Roland's not having it. And they actually, the captain and the first mate actually drug Roland. I mean, this was like the weirdest part of the story was like all of a sudden he was having like this weird trippy moment of seeing things and everything. And and then he was having like this weird dream and all that. Um Now the ship hitting the iceberg and sinking. I mean, basically the ship hits the iceberg and then capsizes and then sinks. I, it was like two paragraphs. I'm like, I was expecting more, but given how much people talk about this, they're like, "Oh yeah, it predicted everything," and I'm like, "This predicted absolutely not. No, it did predict something." Because there is a whole scene in this story about insurance fraud. This is where the insurance fraud conspiracy theory originated. I am not even kidding. That's where it came. We found it. Oh my gosh. So, like, Roland ends up on this sheet of ice. He has this child with him. And at one point, he like wrestles a polar bear and everything. Yeah, it gets. I'm not sure that that really needed to be in the story. I'm not, I don't know. But I guess considering further on in the story, uh, to prove a point, I guess yeah, it did need to be in there. But I mean, did I hate the story? No. I, I mean, I liked the character John Rowland. I mean, there was a lot of character development with him. There really was. It's just what blows my mind is that there's so many people that go to this thing and they talk about it and they're like, oh my gosh, Morgan Robertson predicted Titanic and the sinking of it. And they bring up like the first two paragraphs of the first chapter. This didn't predict anything. Titanic. All right. Honest to God, this has nothing to do with Titanic. In fact, when Titanic sank, they changed the title of it and tried to distance this story from the actual sinking of Titanic. And Morgan Robertson was attacked. People tried to say, I'm sure I said it already, but I'll say it again. People were attacking him and saying that he was some kind of he could see into the future or whatever. And he said, if I could see into the future, I would have told White Star Line, don't build this doomed ship. I just, come on, people. So, um, I, I was actually, I expected it to be a full book. It's just a short story. I enjoyed it, to be honest. There's a lot of character development in it. Um, the former lover is a bitch. She, and but it does it doesn't have anything to do with Titanic. It really doesn't. And Morgan Robertson even said when he was alive, he's like, stop. But the funniest part is I finished reading it and I'm like, so that's where the insurance fraud conspiracy theory came from. Thanks a lot, Morgan. No, but to be honest, I really did enjoy the story. I just wish people would actually read it and not just be like, "Oh yeah, it predicted nothing." It pred- he's he worked on ships. This was released in 1898. If he wanted to write a maritime disaster story, he would know what the perfect time would be, or when a perfect a perfect place would be. Where what is an ocean liner's greatest enemy? Obviously, icebergs. So, but as I said before, I did enjoy the story. I really did. John Rowland was a good character. And I will most definitely read the other story. I This was my first look at Morgan Robertson's writing. I will be reading the other stories. If you want me to, I will talk about those as well. But this was basically the release of the 1914 McClure release, and that's why the others are there. This is not the only uh this is not just Wreck of the Titan, but but anyway, I'll close up here.